Okay, we are live. Welcome to the third edition of the Adventure Society report on August the 19th, 2014. I'm Sir Proper, Twitch.tv streamer and quasi-internet celebrity. If I could be doing any one thing right now, it would be playing Destiny.
And he never lets anyone forget it.
True.
And I'm Code Queen, moderator for Sir Proper on Twitch.tv. And if I could be doing any one thing right now, it would be lying in the sun, looking out to sea, down on beautiful Land's End, instead of chilling in South London in the cold rain.
See, when you say Land's End, I just think World's End from The Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah, let's just go to World's End. That's apparently more interesting. Okay, so we're live on Google Plus and at Sir Proper, and we're also on twitch.tv/Sir Proper, and the show will be posted on youtube.com/Sir Proper Gent. And just for those catching this as a podcast slash vlogcast on YouTube, we are live Mondays and Thursdays, uh, generally between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to participate in the podcast, you can join us over at twitch.tv, Sir Proper, and you can interact with us, and we'll engage with the audience.
Totally.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the
Okay,
thing we do.
so today we're talking about, at least generally, we're talking about the state of multiplayer. Why has multiplayer developed along these two primarily divergent paths, competitive and co-op? One better than the other. Where's the inherent value in each? What are companies doing to tap into the multiplayer market? You know, we'll be touching on like Assassin's Creed's jump to multiplayer. DayZ, we'll touch on that again, even though we've talked about it a little bit more. And anything else that I can think of as we go along. Then we're going to be talking about Telltale Games, the narrative gaming experience. So apparently there's news that a member from Bungie is going to Telltale, and also the fact that Telltale Games is either has just released or is going to release the Game of Thrones game in that narrative storytelling style. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about graphics in gaming. The divergent path in regards to graphics, the artistic style, as in pixels, retro, stuff like that, versus going towards photorealistic. What's the purpose of those? Is one better than the other? Why is it seen, like, especially with all these remastered editions, why is only photorealistic getting kind of the notice, whereas the artistic and kind of indie style doesn't necessarily get the same, what do you call it, the news tread, so to speak. I mean, it's out there. Obviously, people are playing it, but why isn't it getting the same kind of news feed or bandwidth that the AAA games are? What's the difference? So, well, what are we starting off? We're starting off with state of multiplayer.
Woohoo!
So, Cola, what about you? Competitive or co-op?
Um, to be honest, I don't play a lot of multiplayer.
You don't? Don't you
I
know that's all
know.
the rage?
I know. Oh God, what am I gonna do? Um, there were appeals for both. I think personally, just for my personality, I prefer co-op because I'm much more of a team kind of person, and I like to interact and develop with people. I mean, there's certain. It really depends on the game and how it's developed.
Mm.
So, like, I've been playing a lot of Watch Dogs, and that's a competitive multiplayer,
Now, I have a
and
question
it
about the
makes it quite
Watchdog.
interesting. Yeah.
The Watch Dogs things. Now, I saw a video on it, and I have not had the chance to play Watch Dogs yet. But is the multiplayer strictly competitive? Like, people just pop into your world and you have to deal with them?
Well, that's the what they call the one versus one element. So yeah, you get put into someone else's game, and you essentially there's a couple of options. There's one where you can just follow and observe them, and just hope that they don't catch you doing that, or you do what's online hack called online hacking, where you go into the game, you have to find them, you have to hack their phone, and then you have to hide from them and not get caught. There are other multiplayers in Watch Dogs. There's competitive racing. There is this other one called Decryption, which is team based.
Hmm.
So you're put into a team, and your team basically has to. It's kind of I haven't played it, so I've only seen people do it. So it's kind of like a hacking, but with a team. So it's a team against a
Hmm.
team. So there is some more cooperative style play. So yeah,
But
there's different ones to choose from. I mean, the most popular seems to be the one versus one.
it does
Um,
seem like it's more slanted towards the competitive slate more than co-op. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
team versus team, but it's still competitive versus,
yeah, because I mean, even though you're in a team, it's not like people really work together that well. I don't
yeah.
think, at least from what I've seen.
It's a mixed bag.
It is a mixed bag. But then, I've played, going back like a long time now, back in the days of Sims Online.
Oh my.
That's a much more, I don't know, it's not really even cooperative. It's just like this giant world.
Social,
Um, yeah,
interactive.
it's socially interactive, and actually, I wish more games had that kind of element. I mean, I
So,
guess you get those in games like Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy.
or World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Wow, games like
I,
that.
I almost put a P in there instead of the FT. I don't know what happened there.
No.
I think it's just a twist of pronunciation, one of those things. But yeah, so there's this kind of divide between, cooperative versus competitive. And it seems like everybody and their uncle feels like they need to slap on a competitive mode.
Yeah.
There was basically a whole Assassin's Creed put out around a competitive multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
Brotherhood, right? When
Brotherhood, and also in AC4 there is a multiplayer mode.
but Brotherhood was kind of advertised as the
Yeah, no,
multiplayer.
where you play the
Yeah,
actual game. It's not like an additional
right.
mod or you know end part
And
of the
it
game.
looks like part of AC Unity is going to be somewhat heavily handed into multiplayer, at least from some of the trailers I've seen.
Yeah, it's definitely meant to be more co-op.
So, that's the question. Why? Yes, we've had gladiatorial games, so competitive multiplayer makes sense. But why does that seem to be the thing that more often than not developers are going towards rather than cooperational? Like Dark Souls, for instance. There is a cooperational system, but it is just as easy to have it be, competitive in that same time because you go into the state where you can summon to do cooperative, but it's not like you can be cooperative exclusively. You have the potential always to face competition,
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know. It seems like a real kind of back and forth right now. We have a lot of things that are competitive. We got the FPS genre, the MOBAs. We have the RTS. Yeah, there's going to be some Destiny is slating itself as a social shooter, but there's still a good chunk of competitive focus in it. I'd say pretty close to a third of the game is still centered around competitive multiplayer. Um, but there's just so much emphasis on that, and we talked about previously the co-op experience. So why is this delineation, and why does it seem so much more likely that someone wants to stab you in the back than work with you?
I think there's probably two things going on. Well, I mean, first, if I think about co-op games that I have played, I'm thinking of games um, like Fable, where like Fable, I can't remember now, two or three, um, where there, well, I think both two and three had co-op in it, and the co-ops in it were very disappointing. Um, and one, it required you to have someone to bring into the game, so it was like a lot harder to just find a random person. You had to
Oh, there
know
was no
someone.
matchmaking.
Yeah, there wasn't any matchmaking. It was like you had to know someone online, um,
Mhm.
from what I remember. And also the kind of things you could do in co-op were they're very minimal and just not it just wasn't that exciting. And like I did co-op in Fable 3 a couple of times, but it really didn't add anything to the game and it didn't open up anything new for me. I mean, there were certain things you had to do with co-op, like certain little unlocks, but
Mhm.
it didn't take away from the game if I didn't unlock them, so it didn't make a difference. And I think a lot of games experience that kind of co-op. Um, I think,
So now, would you say that's a developer problem? Like,
yeah, I
since
just think
they
like
don't.
they, I don't know if it's like they were approaching it in the wrong way because of the style of game. So because it's a not an open world game, they're limited on how they could do that cooperative play. Whereas like you have something like Elder Scrolls, which is already an open world game, it's a lot easier probably to develop it toward having a platform for multiple players in the same game.
Mm.
And then there's the other thing where I sometimes wonder if this kind of trend now to add these multiplayer portions of games, so you have a whole game that it's set by itself, but then they add on this additional multiplayer piece to it, isn't somehow to appeal to the people who tend to play more
Competitive
MOBA
game.
style games and Halo style games and Call of Duty and games like that, who wouldn't necessarily play things like Assassin's
So
Creed.
you're potentially a money hook, like
Yeah,
something to
just
trying to
well, I
get
mean,
another
look,
market in.
these are companies. They make a product. They're
Oh yeah,
trying to.
certainly.
They need to build an audience. They can't rely on the same, whatever, 10,000 people or a million people buying their game. They need this. That's fine this year, but next year they need to sell 10 million
Right.
units. So how do you do that? You need to find the things that are going to draw in more audience. And I
So
think,
going after the known market share, not necessarily pushing. I mean that's a typical business axiom,
hmm,
go where the money is. But
yeah, of course.
I mean, are we losing out because of that? Because I'm with you in the same boat. I didn't necessarily play Fable, but I can think of way more cooperative experiences that just are blah, like
Yeah,
an
it's just
afterthought.
they were kind of pointless in themselves, and you're kind of
Right.
wondering why did you even bother putting this in here?
And I think that one of the hurdles, there's at least a couple different things. One, you can slap on a competitive portion and it doesn't affect the single player.
Yeah,
So your single player can be standalone, but as soon as you create cooperative, you have to worry about trivializing content and the idea of power creep, which we discussed earlier. I believe in the first podcast.
yeah,
Power creep, the idea of you know you getting stronger and stronger, so your enemies have to get stronger in order to provide some kind of challenge or engagement. Well, as soon as you put two superpowered characters in the same space, then you have to worry about, are they going to have anything to do? And
Yeah.
I understand that as a hurdle, and I think Destiny is in a lot of ways a big solution to that. Kind of trying to sidestep the whole idea of power creep by lateral leveling, horizontal leveling, as it were, and have things work on a scaling system. Like your attacks will do more damage to things higher level than you, but it doesn't just statistically amp up your damage. So I don't know. I think those are some of the problems, and I think we need a better solution. And as much as I hate to kind of put the banner on Destiny, I'm hoping Destiny kind of paves the way for that.
Mm.
I think that's a valuable experience, and I hope that it would work out well.
Yeah.
At least
Well, it
it
looked
has
really
so
interesting
far.
in beta, so
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing is, you never really know with a game, you know, until you
Right.
actually got it out of the wrapper, downloaded it, and uh, put it in your PC or your console and loaded it up.
Yeah.
Because I think there's what I find really interesting about gamers in general when there's hype about a new game or a new add-on to a game. There's a lot of wishful thinking. There's a lot of, I think gamers in general can be quite visionary, and so they hear something or they read something, and their expectations become so much larger than reality. And I think gaming companies do it to themselves. Gaming has
Mm.
amazing marketing and PR now. Um,
They've had for a
and
while.
yeah, exactly. But there's so many, not only gaming companies themselves, but there's so many venues and outlets for gaming news and discussion that it just becomes like this feeding frenzy over the smallest detail, and then people play the game and they're like, ah, it was shit. It was not what it's gonna be. And I think that's because we over expect what is possible or what is even being told, what is being said to us. I think we blow it out of proportion. I don't know. I went off on a tangent there. But.
No, that's fine. I caught an article caught my eye. About Microsoft says Tomb Raider Xbox exclusivity is a win-win, not an attack on PlayStation players. Now it does. I did see a line in here that says, where was it? Before other systems.
Yeah, this whole like we
So
were
it's
talking about in the other podcast about exclusivity. Like they say it's exclusive, but then later on it comes out on other consoles or whatever. And and Xbox is not the only one who does this. PS does it as well, and PC does it as well. So it's
well,
not.
Microsoft has a much longer history of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Halo. Um, but that was first party developer and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
they definitely Microsoft has understood the value of exclusivity from the beginning. Even if now the market is moving towards a timed where it's like, yeah, there's a benefit to one console for a time.
Mm.
At least it's not being something that's getting stuck there.
No. Well, and in a market where PS has sold 10 million units and Xbox has only sold a million, they got to
So,
do what they got to do to be
so what you're
competitive.
saying is the PlayStation 4 is stomping the Xbox One. Is what you're saying,
Well,
statistically
well, but
speaking.
it's true, yeah.
Just based on the facts. I want to
Yeah.
put that out
I
there.
mean, I don't have an Xbox One, so I don't care. I'm still living on the 360, so it doesn't matter
No,
to me.
I don't know what PlayStation 4. I mean, there was a number of things that PlayStation 4 did right. as far as marketing hype and all of that. So
Well, the other
it's
thing is it came out first.
yeah, well, coming out first does help,
Yeah.
but if it's not something people want, it doesn't matter.
I think also it depends on what you're talking about gaming wise. I think
Well,
PS has a good history of certain types of games, and they've always reported them to next generations,
yeah.
which keeps people loyal and keeps people interested because you can be like, well, I can, if I just wait a year, I can play like
Well,
games that
let
I
me
played 10 years ago.
from having an ear to the ground in the community, so to speak.
Mm.
One of the things that I've been hearing a lot, especially from dealing with like the Bungie forum, is that Destiny alone is moving PlayStation units.
Mm.
Because people either had bad experiences or questionable experiences with the Xbox hardware from the 360 generation. I'm not saying every unit was bad or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's just a fact people had some rough waters with the Xbox 360. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
over 30% fail rate even on their most recent units. I think they were down to 25 on their most recent units, but still that's pretty piss poor when it comes to hardware
Yeah.
quality control.
I mean, we actually waited like a good year or so to buy our 360 because we knew when it came out, never a good idea to just be the first one to buy it.
Right.
And we were right. I mean, unfortunately, we were right. It had problems, and so we got basically the second edition 360. And it was the same thing with the original Xbox. We did not buy an Xbox right away.
Oh no, I didn't either. I waited until it was cheap, but that's just me. But
Yeah.
that's a thing. A lot of people saw the PS4 as kind of a value-added investment, and this isn't
Yeah.
for the whole console flaming wars. There's
No.
definitely both systems are adequate. There's gonna be great games on both. I honestly think it comes down to pick your poison, whichever one you want to experience your games on. If it's going to have the first party games that you want, or the experience, and that's one reason a lot of people playing Destiny went with the PS4 is because from the beginning Destiny was quite well advertised as going to be something the biggest experience was going to be focused on the PS4. So
Yeah.
it's just funny. I have to bring this up because I thought it was one of the funniest conversations in the Bungie net forums. So this guy makes this giant rant about how Bungie is screwing over its loyal Xbox fans and how he went to Xbox because of Bungie. He was a loyal Bungie fan, and now he's complaining that his experience on Xbox is not going to be the same. And I'm like, if you're a loyal Bungie fan, and Bungie most clearly has specified repeatedly that the premier experience of Destiny is going to be on the PS4, doesn't
Mm.
that mean that you're more of an Xbox fanboy than you are a Bungie fanboy at that point? Just
Yeah.
saying. So, anyways, moving right out. Since we're talking about stories, consoles, and the narratives, multiplayer, co-op, there's a third. I'd say there's technically four general. There's the social experience that we said, and then there's the single player experience.
Yeah.
So Telltale Games, they're a narrative game style, definitely focused on the single player, and they've done a fantastic job with The Walking Dead. I'm looking forward to The Walking Dead season 2 finishing up, and then I'll buy that when it goes on sale, just like I did the first one. Um, but they're going to be putting together a Game of Thrones series. In fact, as we mentioned at the top of the show, one of the apparently a veteran writer of the industry and a writer at Bungie is moving from Destiny to this Game of Thrones series, and he said, where was it? Where was there was a line. He's excited by the challenge of writing a Game of Thrones story that is on par or better than what fans found on the HBO TV show.
Mm,
He even goes on to say, "I'm gonna have to up my game." So
interesting.
that's a big deal. I mean, we have the narrative story. Obviously, it's not dead, but I think there's very few narrative style game things that have really figured out what the core engagement is, and I think Telltale is a studio that has definitely got its thumb on the pulse of the core engagement of the narrative game style. Now, have you watched Game of Thrones, Cola?
Yes, I have, but because I'm
Good,
in the
because
UK,
I'm
we're
on
a
it.
season behind, so don't spoil it.
I haven't watched in here. I can't spoil anything for you.
Okay.
I only know what's in memes and what's on 9gag. All the jokes,
Wow.
all the lulls. Jon Snow, you know nothing. Basically, that's what I about the extent of what I know. No, that's not true. Lady Proper has watched Game of Thrones and read pretty much all the books up to this point.
Wow.
So I don't know. This is kind of a big undertaking. What do you think about this? This seems pretty monolithic. I mean, yes, The Walking Dead was a pretty big universe to tackle. I mean, you had the comic book series, the graphics novels where it started, and then the TV show. That was a pretty big bite to take. But Game of Thrones. I mean, do you think they can even hope to do it justice?
Well, I mean, it's really hard when you're talking about an existing series, an existing story. Um, you know, I've seen that before. Some people will love it, some people will hate it.
Are you fighting with something over there?
Yeah, sorry. It's like it's like the middle of the night here, and my cats keep trying to break into the living room.
Well, you should fight your cats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry. I had to
No,
move
it's
away.
fine. I was just making light of the noise.
Sorry. Um, but yeah, so look, who knows? One hopes that they do a good job with it. One hopes that they try and stay true to the storyline and the characters and the vision of it. There was, I don't know if you knew, there was a Game of Thrones game out. Um,
Yeah, no, I've heard about that. I haven't even
but it's one
considered
of
it,
these games where it was like, well, obviously it's not any of the characters you know, and you play as someone who doesn't exist in the world. And I mean, it looked like an interesting game, but I think what people want out of a game that's based on something like this that already exists is they want to really be part of that world. They want to play those characters. They want to see those locations.
Well, my question is like, with the Telltale Games Walking Dead, they did a side story that kind of acknowledged the rest of the body of work of The Walking Dead, but it was definitely its own thing. So I'm guessing that's probably what they're going to be kind of angling
Yeah.
towards for this, since it seems to be what Telltale does well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's a large undertaking. Although I would point out that George R. R. Martin, or whatever his name is,
Whatever. Yeah, whatever his name is.
yeah, is it just George R. Martin? I don't know, something.
Yes, two R's.
2 R's. There's 2 R's. Okay, so I was right. Ha
Yeah.
ha. Fantastic. Gleaned knowledge. So he actually, the whole beginning concept for the Game of Thrones series was he was watching his turtles essentially die. He has pet turtles, and he was imagining them as lords and ladies and backstabbing each other. That's why they were
Wow.
dying. Yeah, that's turtles. Turtles, people. They ain't Teenage
Turtles
Mutant
are
Ninja
real.
Turtles. It's just the lords and ladies turtles. That's what it all comes down to. Now, I just, I was reading this article about Telltale and all that. But apparently, this Ruben guy is not the first veteran Bungie writer to quit Bungie.
Ooh,
And now this is a little old
scandalous.
news. This is a little old news because this is apparently quitting Bungie Studios at the end of September 2013, whatever. Um, he worked on both Halo and Destiny, so he's been with Bungie for a while.
Hmm.
His return to Microsoft. His new post is Senior Creative Director, and he joins the Xbox team to help create quote unquote incredible entertainment. So I mean, that's maybe he got a thing for the Microsoft with the whole Halo thing, but
Hmm.
he's apparently wrote a Halo book called Contact Harvest. So I don't know, maybe he's back with the Halo team to kind of write a better story, but I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, with Marty of Halo renown, music director that left Bungie, one wonders if it's not that the studio may be going a different direction, or people had different feelings from the whole Halo series or whatnot, and maybe that's where the kind of division came from. Because I actually noted a couple times when I was streaming Destiny that there was quite a few scores that kind of felt Halo-esque to me. And I'm almost wondering if Bungie isn't, not trying to distance itself, but create at least some comfortable space. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I don't know. This it's interesting that you have two writers, two writers. But that
It's hard to know. I mean, things like that,
yeah,
it's not like they ever really tell you
not
why.
until it's well past.
Yeah, I mean, if there was like some dark and dirty reason. Or if it's just, sometimes, I mean, I imagine in the game world, you just like in any profession, you outgrow a role and, it's time to move on to the next thing.
Or
Um,
even just outgrow necessarily a specific style, or
yeah,
you know because you kind of have to bring in fresh meat at some point.
yeah, exactly. And I imagine that a lot more people move around from gaming company to gaming company than you ever hear about. It's only when something seems a bit dramatic or, newsworthy that it even gets
Yeah,
mentioned.
that's true. There is some swapping of assets, so to speak.
Yeah. And I imagine one of the reasons why we're hearing about this is because Destiny is just about to be launched.
Yeah,
So it's quite a big thing that people are anticipating. And Game of Thrones is something else that people are anticipating. So those two things together makes it more newsworthy
that's
than a
true.
lot of people who probably change roles all the time.
That's true because I know programmers get shopped around pretty frequently. I mean, you're always got your lead programmers and whatnot, but the actual code monkeys and stuff can experience some churn and whatnot. So
Yeah.
okay, so stories in game. Now, oftentimes, I know you've probably experienced some thoughts on this about the narrative experience in different art styles. Like, for instance, Telltale's Walking Dead did it in a cell shaded type presentation, which is not necessarily considered, photorealistic. It's definitely considered stylistic art. But we also
Well, it looks
have,
more like it looks more like
yeah, exactly, like the comic.
which is fitting for the
Yeah,
game because that's where the story got started.
yeah. So obviously there was a intentionality in the art choice, and so that kind of brings us to our last topic for the podcast. Graphics. What is the importance of graphics? What are people wanting? I mean, because we seem to have kind of these divergent trends between one trying to go as photorealistic as possible, and it almost seems like is tempting the idea of presence and VR and kind of pushing that metric. And then you also have, the artistic styles, pixel art, and cell shading and stuff like that. I mean, Borderlands uses cell shading.
Yeah.
So, in regards to this, I'm kind of curious. Do you actually have a preference whether you're kind of pushing to the bleeding edge of the generation, or if your medium's more artistic? Now, I know you fancy yourself a writer, and I don't say that in any kind of derogative fashion.
You better not be.
No, no,
What does
because
that
I
mean?
you fancy
Fancy yourself a writer.
as one of my writing teachers says, do you write? Oh, then you're a writer.
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned it a couple times, so that's why I used that particular terminology. Apologize for any confusion, but
Bro, do you
um,
even write?
yeah, bro,
Because
do you
I
even
do.
write? I do. I actually do write. I
I
I took
do.
a creative non-fiction writing class, and I did fantastically. And I did a public reading with this last as with one of the projects. So
Cool.
I am actually a writer, which is why the whole idea of narrative and psychology and narratives and what makes us connect with the flawed hero versus the guy that just is too good to be true.
Mm.
Um,
The Mary Sues of the world.
yeah, you can't be too spit shine perfect. You just can't.
Nope.
Elsewise, people are like, "Who the f
Boring.
is this guy?"
Yeah.
Unless you get to be that guy, and then that's a different story. Because everyone wants to pretend to be the good guy.
Yeah. But it doesn't make for good fiction.
Until you're Commander Shepard, and then everyone's going around punching everyone in the face. Bunch of renegades. So, so the art style. How do you think it affects, coming from more of the writer's vantage point? What do you think this artistic divergence is doing to presentation and narrative? Really?
um, I think it's really good that there's so many different styles now in games. And there's certainly a style to appeal to everyone. I think people who enjoy games of different types embrace the different styles that they find those games in.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I love games that are very vivid and beautiful. I mean, games like, I mean, you could say Skyrim's not exactly like cutting edge anymore, but I think in terms of the way that it looks and the way that it feels when you're playing it, it's a beautiful game. And,
It definitely takes you
I've,
to a place. I mean, that
yeah,
one,
exactly.
you
And,
maybe,
things look realistic enough.
yeah.
I'm playing a video game as well. So, I mean, we're not talking about virtual reality yet. We're talking about video games. And I personally don't necessarily need uber photorealism because I can look out my window and get that.
Right.
I'm looking to see how realistic you can make it, but it still be fantastical,
Hmm.
if you get what I'm saying,
I do.
And, like we were talking about Telltale, I like their style. I like the fact that the Walking Dead games look like the Walking Dead graphic novels to a certain extent,
Although,
and you get
question:
that feel.
are you going to be okay? Like, first off, are you interested in the Game of Thrones Telltale game? And if it's just cell shaded as well, what is that going to do for the appeal to it? Because that's been, with having an HBO show and it being a novel. I think that's a harder sell, especially when you bring up such a valid point that
Yeah.
The Walking Dead was a comic book narrative, so it kind of fits the theme. What about style
I don't
choices and
know.
artistic choices on that?
I've played Borderlands 2, and I like that. And I mean, that's not, as far as I'm aware, that's not from something else.
No, but
Um,
Borderlands still, that's it's humorous. It's definitely almost comic book in its delivery. So
yeah, of course.
you're
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I'd have to see the game to say, but I do like
Mhm.
Telltale style. I mean, I've seen people streaming The Wolf Among Us, um, and like their other games. What I think it brings to the game is something more than just the visuals. So I think some games have to rely very heavily on the way they look, and other games can fall back on other things. There's actually a lot of controversy around Watch Dogs about the graphics. And some people say the graphics suck, and if you get it on PC, you get the better graphics, and blah, blah, blah. And I actually think, yeah, but the game is not about the graphics. There's a lot of other elements to the game. So, most things look good, they look real. There's a few things that don't, like when people are talking to each other. But I can forgive those things because there's other elements to the game that I enjoy that are more important to me.
Mm.
And I think when people focus on things aren't exactly perfect or it's not the right visual style, they're not gaming for the right reasons, in my opinion. And they should just go back to playing Halo and Call of Duty because those are the games where they're wanted. The games that have story, that have puzzles and intelligence and problem solving are not the games for people who just want to blow shit up that looks real.
Well, I'd almost be careful to that point though, because one of our own regular audience members, Flendomo, on Twitch, one of my moderators as well. He is an avid PvPer, but he is definitely a sharp cookie and enjoys a good story. In fact, we've kind
Well, I
of.
don't mean to imply that everyone who plays a PvP game doesn't appreciate other types of game. What I'm saying is that I think the people who complain about,
well, unless
things
the
not being
is,
perfect in other games.
I think you have to be careful. Again, and then this is it's easy to generalize. So don't get me wrong, but the thing is there is plenty of times that you can have a valid criticism,
Yeah.
And still necessarily come from one of those backgrounds. So.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
it's a tough point to make though, and it is something you have to be careful of generalizations. But at the same time, yeah, there is definitely a stereotype there for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a good thing, it is what it is.
Well, I think there's so many different types of games and so many different types of visual styles.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't matter. It's like there shouldn't be a console war. There shouldn't be a war over graphics because look at Minecraft. Minecraft is probably one of the most popular games in the world.
Oh my gosh! Like if you go on,
and it basically
right
looks like it came out of the 80s. So
that joke article that you linked me.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet you there is like as much as it was written tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Basically the where is it? I gotta find that article. Basically,
majority of gamers believe Minecraft was the first video game ever made.
P4R Gaming, play for real.
Yeah.
Gaming. It's obviously a spoof News Networks, but the title of the article is "Majority of Gamers Believe Minecraft Was the First Video Game Ever Made," and they have some ridiculous quotes such as, "I can trace the origins of pretty much every genre to Minecraft," said Minecraft forum member Creepy Destroyer 2. "You can jump, which is something that Nintendo obviously copied with Mario platformers. The first-person mode easily inspired many companies to create first-person shooters like Halo. Even Final Fantasy RPG has stolen the elements of health points and equipment from Minecraft. I wish Notch, Minecraft creator, would just sue these companies already, but he's clearly too nice." That is obviously ridiculous, but I bet you there's some young gamers out there, that 6 to 13 audience that don't know any better.
No.
There's gotta
Of course not.
There's gotta be.
It's quite funny you said about Pong as well. I almost died
Pong.
laughing.
Oh jeez. I played Pong. I played the original Pong. Let me tell you,
Pong, yeah.
it came out in the 80s. Or actually, I think it was early.
It came out in the 70s.
That's true, because
it came out in the 70s.
Pong. Commodore 64.
No, it was No, it was out before. No, it was out
Really?
years before Commodore
Oh, that's right.
64. Yeah, Pong
The
was a
first,
thing. You had to buy the console
you
to
had to buy
play
the whole
Pong on,
thing.
and you put it on your television.
Oh, jeez, wow. I just
Yeah,
short dated myself. No,
yeah,
my first console was the Atari 2600, which also had Pong, mind you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, yeah, you could play it on later consoles, but yeah, the first original Pong was like this massive machine that you bought. I mean, I'm not saying I had one. I'm just saying that I happen to know this that to buy this massive. It was like basically, I don't know how to explain it to you if you've never seen an old computer. It was basically the size of
I've
your
seen old
television.
computers. I've seen old computers. I have.
Yeah, and that was it. And that's how you played Pong. And Pong was essentially two lines and a square.
Yeah.
And
I'll
you
tell you how tech savvy my family is, or at least how tech savvy my family used to be. My mother, who was a math teacher for 30 years, programmed in college on one of the very first programmable computers, the Cobalt.
Yeah, my mother was a Cobalt programmer as well. Uh,
Nice.
in fact, in her office, they had one of those punch card machines.
Yeah, that's what she was telling me. I mean, like I programmed myself for a bit. I'm way out of date with these new languages and stuff because I did it in high school, and that was a while ago, people, for me. Um, back
Yeah,
back when
let's not go there.
back when Java was first gaining ground.
Mhm.
um, back when it was still full of holes. Oh wait, it still is full of holes.
Yeah.
Oh Java. Oh
Oh, Java.
oh how we love to hate you and your automatic updater that works terribly.
Oh, tell me, every morning I go to work and I log in my computer and it tells me I have a Java
Hey,
update.
you know if you right click on that, there's actually an option to tell it to stop doing that. Just so
Yeah.
you know. Just so you know. I mean, unless you want to treat it like an old friend. Java, I knew you when you were not as obnoxious.
Java, you're the only one who talks to me.
So yeah, I would say like I'm actually a fan of the pixel art games. In fact, there's a game coming out that I totally want to give a shout out is Witch Marsh. It's not going to be completed till later in 2015, but the game already looks amazing. I'm
Hmm.
excited about it. Basically, it's a 2D action adventure game. Not point and click. It's 2D. It's got platforming and real time combat and stuff like that. But you take on the role of these detectives, and you have abilities and skills and stuff, and it's very RPG, and it looks amazing. I'm excited for it.
I think, for me, as someone who has played earlier um, console games and PC games, and played a lot of text-based games, I
Oh
think,
yeah, I remember that.
you gain an appreciation for games as they are in themselves.
Yeah,
Um, so you take it as a whole. So when a game presents itself as pixel art, there's usually a reason for that, and it's part of the game. And so I don't go into the game thinking, oh, geez, pixel art, like I'm not gonna play this. I don't even think about that. I'm looking at the game for what it's trying to achieve and represent to me as the player.
yeah.
So I embrace all the graphical styles.
Well, I would say, okay, coming from someone whose first console experience was the Atari 2600, I just gotta say, pixel art is not what it used to be. Like, I played the original Nintendo. I had one with the stupid running mat. By the way, DDR was not the first to do a game mat. Just saying. Had that too. The light gun, the whole shebang. The only thing I didn't have was the power glove. But oh, did I want it. Come on, a glove that controls your game? It sounded so cool, but caused carpal tunnel. Um, but no, like, the pixel art of today is so amazing. like the things that they're doing with the graphical presentation. I mean, not only is it less usually less intensive because of the more simplified graphics, which is good because you can get more game for like, a 2 second download, depending on download speed. But I just, there is just some amazing visuals that are coming out of pixel art. Like, apparently it's an Xbox One game, but I've been staring at it because I want to play it. It's it's called Super Time Force.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this. It's actually supposed to be one of the more
Yeah,
popular
it's like
games on Xbox One.
it's apparently the best game on Xbox One right now.
Yeah,
The Franti, blocky side scroller Super Time Force.
that's
I want to play that. I mean, I don't have an Xbox One, but if that game comes out on PS4, I'm totally getting it because it looks amazing. I like the style. It's so interesting. But yeah, no, I'm definitely on board with pixel art. I've definitely played it a lot of games that are pixel art, like Terraria. I don't play it much anymore just because I want to build something and keep it forever, but there's so, like anytime you have a game that's regularly updated, eventually you're like, oh, well, I just have to rebuild, or oops, I corrupted my world. It gets a little tedious, but I also played Starbound. In fact, I'm waiting for a more kind of finished product because I did early. I've been playing it since early beta, but before I start working on something more finalized. But it has RPG elements and pixels, and it has kind of the Minecraft building and digging elements. But there's been a really cool modding community behind it, much like with Minecraft, and that's a fantastic game. Risk of Rain. I'm looking forward to Witchmarsh. So I mean, there's a lot of games out there that I think are worthwhile in narrative and style and have something really to offer. So I'm on the side of varied art styles because if all the books in the world were written the same, I wouldn't want to read them.
boring. Yeah,
And
exactly.
if all the movies, if all the stories ever told were done in the same style, you would quickly even more so than today, everything would be a trope, and you'd see all the story ideas coming before they ever got executed, and it would be very disappointing.
Exactly.
So there's that.
I think the one last thing I would say just about visuals and art and game and stuff is this trend of um, porting games from previous gen to new gen, um, and HDifying them. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw I wrote about
I read the
GameSpot
article
posted.
that you linked to me about the remastered and the potential pitfalls of the gaming industry in doing that kind of
Hmm. I think it's one
repackaging.
thing. It's one thing to port a game, which is cool because there's
Mhm.
a lot of games that I've played in the past. I would love to see brought out on the next gen. I mean, it was amazing to me when they decided to reboot Thief,
Yeah.
because I loved the Thief series, and to be able to play it on not only current gen, well, my current gen, and the new gen, I think is great because it brings it to a whole new audience, as well as for people like me who love the series. Just like
Can
with
I just gotta ask, can we just get it out there that they just need to get around to remaking Final Fantasy VII? I don't care what SquareSoft says, Square Enix, whatever the hell they are now. They just need to make Final Fantasy VII and get it over with. Everyone wants it.
and
Just
they need to make remake Kotar for new gens.
oh, I would play that. I
Or port them, or make them available
well,
on new gen.
I would say
I mean,
like
some.
hold on. They did Metro Redux. They in that article they were talking about how they're like actually improving the game. I would love to see BioWare bring KOTOR to a new age. Not
Yeah,
totally rework it. Don't Dragon Age to it. please don't. But look at the mechanics of the game, see what the core engagement is, and see what can be done to improve it. That and make it a
Yeah.
little less buggy. Because I loved
And
KOTOR,
this
but that
is
shit crashed.
yeah.
That shit crashed left and right.
But actually, when I was thinking earlier about visuals in game, when that game first came out, at the
Mhm.
time, it was one of the best looking games.
It looked
I mean, it
fantastic.
was kind of amazing. You'd walk out into like these amazing city vistas,
Yeah.
and those were things that hadn't really been seen in games that often. And it looked really cool for a long time, and maybe it looks a bit dated now when I play it on my 360, but actually I still love it. I still
Yeah.
love the way it looks, so I'm okay with it. But I think for me, I was looking at the Redux of Metro.
Mhm.
GameSpot had posted like a comparison photo, and they also
Mhm.
did another link to a video. Sorry. And I mean, my question to them is, what is all of this age doing actually doing for the game? Like, is it adding value to the game? Because, like, in the photo, there's a photo of a guy sitting in a chair and he's wearing a leather jacket, and
Mhm.
in the original photo, it looks very grungy and a bit dirty and like you would expect. And in the new photo, it's like shiny. And I just, like, my immediate reaction was, this is like a survival apocalypse game. Why is his jacket so shiny? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And then I just thought, well, what is this? What does this add to the game? If I play this game, am I now losing the atmosphere because everything looks bright
Mhm.
and shiny instead of, dark and grim like it should do? I don't know.
That's a very interesting point. Although I would say, like The Last of Us, which didn't do a whole lot of changing from the port, they didn't make the mistake of making everything look shiny. In fact, everything looks, I think, almost even more filthy from
Mm,
what I've seen in the PS4 version. It just everything's grungy and it just yeah. I think it's a potential pitfall to just up the graphics without thinking about the textures and how they should look.
mm.
So yeah, I mean it's a tough call. I mean there's definitely the goods and the bads, but the main point of that one article that you first linked me was, it's there is a potential pitfall for them to just remake it and kick it out because they know people will buy it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Stop your
But
money
on
grubbing.
on that point of pit of despair slash, I don't think anyone could really answer that question. Um, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, we've been at it a long time. Somebody's
I
gonna
know.
complain.
Yeah, someone is, or maybe they'll just like it. Um, so the contact info for Sir Proper is youtube.com/user/Sir Proper Gent, twitter.com/Sir Proper Gent. You can find images of some of the stuff that I've done in Destiny, and I will be putting up more pictures eventually of the things that go on there at sirtheproper.imager.com. And you can also find us on the Adventure Society, #DEAS at bungie.net. That is our clan. We are available there. You can follow us if you'd
Join the
like,
clan.
or you can join the clan if that interests you too. We do have standards of behavior, so don't be a douche,
Yes.
but
Be classy.
be classy. Exactly. As far as streaming, probably gonna have more Smite inbound.
We're gonna play Smite on Thursday.
Yes, yes, we
Woohoo!
are playing Smite on Thursday. I'm excited about that, to be honest. I don't care if you're new. I just
I'm
want something to play
so a
with.
noob. Like, everybody come and watch me die a million times and Sir shouting at me because
Actually, I'm probably gonna do my damnedest to keep you alive. So, see me prevent her from dying repeatedly is really, really what it should be. Um,
teamwork.
yeah, teamwork. Past that, I don't know. Looking at my Steam catalog, I'm actually thinking that I may end up purchasing a new game on PlayStation 4 and streaming that. I've been kind of
Papers,
like thinking,
please.
what Papers, Please? Is that on PS4?
No, of course not. It's
Oh,
on Steam. I think it's
Wow.
coming to it. I saw it's coming to something,
Uh,
maybe iOS or something like that.
well, Surgeon Simulator's on PS4 now, and
Oh my god, Surgeon Simulator.
come on, that game was amazing. What are you
Somebody told
talking
me
about?
Smite's gonna come to the consoles.
What? Well, I mean, you
Yeah,
can already use controller support right now. I mean,
yeah,
anyone.
yeah.
If anyone has any suggestions or wants to donate a game so that I will play it,
Do
um,
it.
yes, I don't care what the game is. If you donate it to me, I will play it for as long as I can stomach it. It's probably going to be at least over 20 hours. So I'm I'm
Rock Simulator.
I'm a champ like that. But I don't know all of what Cola's going to be playing, but she's definitely going to be playing some Smite with me on Thursday. Hype!
Today live on Twitch.
Exclamation point hype!
Hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I'm still playing Watch Dogs, so
well,
I'm slow. I like to play my games slow.
well, you can find Cola Queen on Twitch along with me much of the time in my channel, and she's also available on Twitter at Cola_Queen.
See,
So
tweet me, baby.
exactly, tweet us, contact us, like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitch, all that good stuff.
Sí,
We're
señor.
we're pandering to you right now. Pander harder,
And
bro.
come to the show live and get
Yes.
involved. You can chat in the chat room, and I will respond to you.
In fact, one of our first ones, we had a really awesome member of the Twitch community and regular member of my audience, Bladesy, chiming in throughout the broadcast, which is quite actually interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but lastly, in the Adventurers Society motto, we like to say if there's a fight worth fighting, fight it.
Find it.
But don't just fight it. Do it with excellence and do it with style.
Woohoo!
All
And we'll be
right,
back on Thursday, right?
we'll be back, yeah, Thursday, unless something comes up, like Cola jumps off a bridge and we have to rebuild her with bionics.
I will try not to do that. I'm planning to stay home and play Smite on the computer.
Because
Not
I'm just
planning
saying,
to walk around any bridges.
because see, here's the thing. In America, you had the $1 million man or the $6 billion man or whatever,
Hmm.
but saying a show is going to be called the 6 billion pound woman, I don't think that translates very well.
No, it doesn't. Or 6,000 kilo.
Kilos, no, no, because it's a monetary amount. See, that's
No,
that's
I know, I know.
that's why the joke works.
Yes, I know.
Stop killing my jokes. It's terrible.
Sorry. Die,
Okay,
jokes, die!
exactly. Well, good night from Cola and I, and
Bye!
don't forget to be awesome, as John Green says.
Or classy, like I said.
Yeah, that's true.